we've already done my top horror films. Let's get into my favorite psychological thrillers. So as I said with the other list, horrors for me are more monsters and ghosts, while psychological thrillers are more people and creepy situations. So that's what this list is mostly going to focus on. Now there still are a bunch that I haven't seen yet. Prisoners, Hush, Gone Girl, just name a few of them. But this is from what I've seen so far. So let's get right into them. First, I have a couple honorable mentions just because I had a really hard time with this one, but I really liked The Guest, You're Next, and Drive. Man, when Drive is an honorable mention. Ugh. At number 10, Split. Now, while I did have a problem with how it ended and where it went with it and kind of what that implies about dissociative disorder, the acting from James McAvoy, because he plays like 5, 6 different characters. This guy's incredible. Oh my god. And just the idea of being trapped in this guy's place and you can't even reason with him because there's so many different identities that you're trying to reason with. It was amazing. And Anna Taylor-Joy, she did such a good job as this victim. Just the back and forth and the dynamic of being stuck there was so terrifying, while also knowing that there is another identity sort of coming along. We don't know what it's going to be. James McAvoy did an amazing job of portraying all of these characters, and it was such a thrilling movie to watch. At number 9, Midsummer. I didn't like this as much as Hereditary, but this one was very different because it was slower. It was more reflective and people walking around and kind of trying to figure out what's going on in this kind of Swedish festival slash is this a cult? Things are happening and we're not quite sure what's going on yet. And it's a lot longer than Hereditary as well. So this one is a lot more of being on the outside of something and trying to figure out what's going on. Now, a lot of the scares actually happen off screen, so that is a little weird. It's not so much scary as it is disturbing. There are two things, specifically one in this movie, where it was a moment that I just could not believe I had witnessed on TV. Like, it was one of those where you're like, I feel like that shouldn't have even been allowed to be filmed. And like I said, it's a lot slower for most of it, but then the end just goes completely bonkers. And wow, I have no idea quite what happened. It ends a little bit on a kind of cliche note for me, but the way it gets there is just freaky. At number 8, The Silence of the Lambs. I had to throw a classic in there, and while it isn't one of my favorite movies of all time, I can't say that Anthony Hopkins is not a creepy ass dude. I mean, he's only in it for 16 minutes. That's insane, 16 minutes, but he just captivates you and just he captures those 16 minutes so well. He steals the spotlight. And Jodie Foster, obviously, she just does such a good job at trying to figure out this mystery and how you have this kind of weird dynamic between Buffalo Bill's the actual villain, but the guy who gets under our skin the most is Hannibal Lecter. And the ending, I mean, it's just the idea of, women can do just as well as men in these situations was, we need more movies like that. At number 7, Ex Machina. I didn't think of this one as a psychological thriller at first, but upon looking back again, actually it really is, because it is very tight. It's only got like 4 people I think in the whole movie, and it is very much like a mystery, but also this guy who made all of these AI robots, what's up with him? Because he's a little weird, he's a little creepy, he seems like he's hiding some things that he's done before with all these other artificial intelligence machines. And just the fact that we have an artificial intelligence robot who is almost really autonomous and kind of also knows that something is going on with this guy. And the way it ends is so symbolic of kind of where we're going, probably in a very dystopic sense. But it's just very creepy, what it implies, and especially for humanity as a whole. At number 6, Joker. Now, if you saw my review on this, you know that I love this movie, and it works on many levels, but specifically a psychological thriller, obviously, because the Joker is a psychological villain. You know, that's how he plays on Batman. But in this, it's just the Joker, and it's so creepy because we don't exactly know everything he's going to do, and it's just ramping up to something that, again, is more things that you're like, I really feel like I shouldn't have watched that on screen. And a lot of what these movies do that make them really effectual like that is that they just show it. They don't make a big production out of it with big music. They don't make it slow-mo or anything. I feel like that takes away from a lot of these moments. But what these movies do, they just show it like it would normally happen. And that's why it's so creepy, because that's how you would really see it in real time. This movie does that, many, many times. But just following, Arthur Fleck and his character, not only is it very creepy, it's also very emotional, and it's very deep, and it has a lot to say. It is a little mixed up in plot and in some of its themes. Tonally, it's still very thrilling and had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. At number 5, Nightcrawler. I was having a very hard time with this one and the one that I'm going to put after this because Jake Gyllenhaal, man, this was a performance I think about a lot because it's just so eerie. He's such a polished guy, but it's so over nice and polished that you're like, something is off with this dude. It's just so creepy because the things that he does to get that footage and the things that he does to get footage that may not have naturally happened, the lengths he'll go to get that money and to get that, honestly, not even about the money. It's more so about the credibility and about, I can do this. The things that he'll do by the end. And of course, it gave us the Jake Gyllenhaal meme face, which is forever worthwhile. Number 4, Shutter Island. This, I think, is my favorite Martin Scorsese movie, which says a lot considering most of his movies are, the gangster movies. And while those are pretty good, they're not my favorites. I actually like this and Hugo more. This one specifically, because one of my favorite actors, Leo DiCaprio, is in it, and Mark Ruffalo is in it, and Ben Kingsley. There's just so many people. Michelle Williams. There's a lot of people in this one, but the story is so good because it just keeps you guessing about this mystery, about this missing patient in a psych ward on a kind of secluded island. It keeps you guessing the entire time, and you're so confused. And there's even all these cinematic clues that you don't get until after you've seen it the first time. You have to go back and watch it a second time. But what really gets me is the ending. It's just one of the biggest and best twists I have ever seen. I showed it to my brother, though, and this son of a bitch, I would never have guessed this twist in a million years. And I said to him, what do you think it is? And he goes, I don't know. I mean, maybe this won't be right, but... And then he says the exact thing that it is. And he was like, but I guess we'll have to wait and find out. I was like, how? He's so smart. But the twist ending is so scary, too. The more you think about it, and the way that they portray it is so creepy. It's just... The more I thought about it, I was like, that if that really happened, I would just be like, just take me out now. Now, these last 3, if I'm being perfectly honest, kind of tie for number 1. I had such a hard time. If I had to pick, I have 3, 2, and 1. But when I think psychological thriller, I think those 3 movies. So number 3, Creep. It's about a guy who answers a Craigslist ad, that was his first mistake, as a filmmaker to film this guy who just wants to show what his daily life is like for his son, who isn't born yet, but this guy has cancer, so he wants to have something for the son to remember him by. And things just get nutty. And you don't exactly know what's going on with this guy. And that's a really big thing in these thrillers, is that the unsurety, the unknown about a person. And that really comes to play in this one. And it's just those 2 people for the whole movie. It's very short, and it's a found footage movie. Ooh, and there's like 2 or 3 shots that were incredibly scary for me that I still think about. But not the end shot, but the very close to the end shot. When you watch it, if you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Creepy as shit. One of the best psychological thrillers I've ever seen. And there's a second one. It's not on my list, but there is a second one, and it doesn't just repeat the same thing. It's actually a little bit different of a perspective, which I loved. Number 2, 10 Cloverfield Lane. This was probably one of the first psychological thrillers I had ever seen, and I did not realize it going into it at first. One of my friends suggested it after I said, let's see Zootopia. He said, no, let's go see 10 Cloverfield Lane. I hadn't seen Cloverfield by that point, but I was like, oh yeah, that's an alien movie, right? Yeah, well, let's go see that. Afterward, I said, when I say we're seeing a Disney movie next time, we're seeing the fucking Disney movie. Because I was terrified out of my mind. Because I had no idea that it was going to be like that going into it. Freaked me out to my core because of one single person, John Goodman. I had no idea this guy could play such a creepy dude. But again, we don't know what's going on with him. It's kind of like Ex Machina, kind of like Creep. We don't know exactly what's happening. We don't know if he's telling the truth about what's outside in this world, if the air is poison and there's really aliens down there or on Earth, or if he's just lying to keep these two people in this bunker with him. And that's the thing, it's very claustrophobic because it's just these people in a bunker for the entire movie trying to escape after they realize maybe he's not all there. And man, it's so good. It's so well done. I think you really, if you watch any of these, you should watch that one because it is very thrilling and it's just so interesting and original. And number 1, my one out of the ones, Psycho. I know this one is typically deemed as a horror, but I mean it's not. It's about people, and it's just about more of the unknown and more about who's doing all these murders. And it is a classic. And if you don't know, the twist by now, I'm not going to say it, but you have to watch this movie. And I think it's my number 1 because it does scare me every single time I watch it, even though there's really only like 3 or 4 kind of scary parts. But it's just so suspenseful, and it's a classic. It's black and white, and it just, I don't know, it's got a very filmy feel to it. Obviously, I mean, it's Hitchcock, but it's also got a very quiet feel, and that's what makes it so eerie. There is mystery to it, but it's not like we're distracted by the mystery. We're just in the moment the entire time. And I don't know, I love to watch it every year. It's one of my favorite Halloween movies to watch, and it's just, while there aren't that many creepy moments, when they come, terrified every time. They're so eerie every time it happens. Obviously the shower scene, and then there's 2 others sort of like that. Specifically towards the end, when I saw the end for the first time, it was like, whoa, I did not see that coming. And then the very last shot itself is just super eerie. So those are my top 10 psychological thrillers. You should check them out if you haven't seen them, if you're a thriller type person. Not all of them are very scary. Some of them are just a little bit more what's going on. They're more suspenseful. Some of them, like Midsummer, like I said, very disturbing. So just know that going in. If you've already seen some of them, let me know in the comments below what you think of them. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and Halloween right in the middle.